So thank you so much for being here. Other senior government officials who may be in our midst today, representatives of our operating partners, heads of other civil society organizations, our all-weather friends from the media, and let me just say, distinguished. It is a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome you all to this very special event this evening, where we are continuing the public discourse on the very pertinent issue of the Access to Information Bill. As Mr. Nachvinga mentioned, the simple question that we would like to explore tonight that we need to crack. And it is our hope as TIZ that the discussion tonight will help us to get some clarity on that scope. Ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the last 2 decades or so, we have had successive governments making very good pronouncements and commitments to enact this law. Unfortunately, as at this evening, these pronouncements have largely remained within the realm of what we can call rhetoric. So at this point, allow me to repeat the challenge that we as a TIZ have repeatedly brought to the UPND administration. That please be the administration that ultimately gives this gift to the Zambian people, because posterity shall judge you well. We do take cognizance of some of the measures that the government has taken in a bid to bring the access to information law closer to reality. But until that reality actually materializes, we reserve our right to remain skeptical, because we have been on this road for far too long. As I conclude, I would like to reiterate our hope as TIZ that the discussion tonight will give greater impetus to the quest to enact the Access to Information law. Ultimately, it is our hope that a concrete and comprehensive framework that will ensure that this important law is actualized will be put in place. We are keen to tick this particular item off the list of promises that we were taught to be ticking off by none other than His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia. So in those few remarks, I'd like to say thank you very much, and I wish you all a very good and thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maurice Lambe, for those welcoming remarks, and also to just highlight the objective of this meeting for today. To put this discussion into context and to give maybe a background of where we are coming from and where we are, and of course the main question will be answered by the panelists of where we are and where we want to go as far as access to information is concerned. I want to invite Mr. Bright Chizonde, who is the Advocacy and Research Manager for Transparency International Zambia, to come and give us a short presentation on the context of this public discussion for today. Mr. Bright.
Good evening. Apologies for that delay. This technology, this information we're talking about. Okay, so I want to present on access to information rationale, implications, and key challenges. First of all, obviously, what we all know is that access to information gives the public the right by law to access facts and data concerning the exercise of any public authority, as well as on the use of any public funds. So I want just for us to focus on, the importance of why access to information is very critical. In that definition that I've given of the rationale for access to information, you see a number of key important facts. First of all, what we know is public authority is delegated authority, right? So the people are the source of that authority that is exercised by public officials. Okay, that's one reason why there's need for access to information, because the custodians of the authority are actually the people. Then secondly, of course, public participation is conditioned on information. You cannot effectively participate in the governance process if you do not have information. Information is very critical for the people to effectively participate. Then thirdly, public officials are using public funds, right? So the owners of the funds are the people. So if you're making decisions with delegated authority using money which is not yours, belongs to the public, then the public have the right to know what decisions you're making. And then lastly, public policy decisions, of course, they affect public welfare, right? So the decisions of these same public officials who are making decisions on the basis of public funds, again, affect the general public. So that is the first reason why the public have a right, because we're saying there is a right to information. So access to information often occurs, and of course we also know this through right to information or access to information laws. So in other words, for us to have access to information, we need to have a particular law to be put in place. Okay? And that's where the issue of right to information or access to information laws comes in. So through the enactment of these laws, the public becomes legally allowed to obtain any and all information and documents from the government or other relevant organizations. The key word there is legally allowed. I'll share maybe two experiences. Before I joined Transparency International Zambia, I was working for the Center for Trade Policy, and we're doing a study on the rationale for Zambia to the decision they were making for them to relaunch the national airline. And so we needed information on what are the contents of the agreement they made with the Ethiopian airline. So we went to ask for this information, and we were told we just can't give you that agreement. And so that was the major limitation in our study. And then recently, again, with Transparency International Zambia, where I work now, we also were requesting information from the Electoral Commission of Zambia on the declaration of assets and liabilities of presidential candidates. We had a very good meeting, a closed-door meeting with the East Side, and we asked for that information. They told us, go and write, and we'll respond. We wrote, and they never responded. Actually. So that is what we're talking about when we say the public will now be legally allowed to obtain any and all information and documents from government or other relevant organizations. And this is why we are here. So access to information empowers the public to demand for accountability. That's the outcome of us having this particular law in place. It empowers the public to demand for accountability from governments and participate in public affairs. As I said, is critical for effective public participation and programs, and to fight corruption through knowledge. So if the public knows what is supposed to be done, They know how much money has been allocated, let's say through the Constituency Development Fund. They know what projects are supposed to be implemented. They have all the information. They will participate and they will be able to hold the duty bearers to account. It is more difficult to hide abuses of power and other illegal activities when citizens can access key facts and data from government, right? So as we are trying to fight corruption, we know that the citizens are the eyes and ears, and they are the ones who report the cases. If you know the way the SEC arrives at most of the cases, it's because people report. They'll give you a breakdown of how many reports they have received, how many out of the reports they have investigated, and then how many they have now prosecuted, and how it go to the court of law in terms of being acquitted or finalization of those cases. So the issue is that all this information comes from the public. So if they don't know, then it becomes difficult to fight corruption. Let me just give the global perspective of where we are. Currently, around 120 countries globally have Right to Information Acts, right? But the acts vary in strength and implementation, right? So obviously, what this entails is that more countries have actually these laws in place than those who do not have these laws. That's 61.5%. In terms of the African perspective, I had difficulties in finding relevant sources for the African case. But I think what I established is from 2010 to 2023, there has been some moves in terms of access to information legislation in different African countries. And so, citing different sources which are included there, what you can see is an upward trend in terms of enactment of this law. So we say 13, 21, 26, 27. So that is the current estimate in terms of how many of these are on the African continent. I have countries which had access to information estimated as 2017. This includes Angola, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Kenya, and the rest goes on. So all these countries have enacted these laws in the African. Let me end by looking at the key challenges despite having all these laws. So the picture you see is that world over, more countries have enacted these laws than those who have not. In African context also, we see a trend of increased enactment of this law. But what are the challenges? The first challenge is failure to meet international standards. So despite having these laws, most of these laws are not meeting international standards. And so that is another consideration perhaps we should have in mind. Then the second challenge we see is poor implementation. So as a lot of people will say, having a law is one thing, but it also matters how well you implement that law. So you can have the law, but then it can be poorly implemented. The third challenge, limited publicity and sensitization. So this is the other problem that you see, is a case where you have people, the country has enacted the law, but the people do not know the implication of that law and the right that has actually been given to them. So because of that, they're not fully utilizing that law. Or perhaps it's actually by design that you have this law, but you don't publicize that much, so that the people are not actually utilizing that particular law. Moving on to the fourth key challenge, we have limited training for public officials, right? Because the public officials also need to understand the implication of having this law in place. So how do they then interact in a space where there is this law? So they need to understand, they need to be trained. But this has been limited again in many countries. And then number 5, we have strong attitudes of secrecy among public officials. This is I think we are as human beings sometimes are designed to love or to hate change. So even when the law is enacted, some people just feel like this information is not for the public consumption. And they still want to maintain the culture of secrecy. And this has been observed again in many places where the attitude still remains despite having this law in place. And lastly, I think we have citizen been enacted, and citizens can use it, can access the information, but they just don't want to access the information because they just believe that government officials are corrupt and they have lost trust. But what will be the implication, what will be the benefit of me using this access to information and trying to hold these people accountable, and then they just lose confidence and trust in government or government institution. So that is briefly, I think, what I wanted to give you is the overall situation in terms of access to information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chizonde, for that presentation. I know there could be questions for Mr. Chizonde, but I want to protect him and say that I'm sure most of the questions we can hold and we wait for the panel to come in, and then we can direct them to the panel at the right time. So at this particular point in time, we will dive into the panel of discussants, and at this particular point in time, I'll request Mr. Lifuka, who is going to moderate this podium. Mr. Lifuka.
Thank you very much, Chimuka, for this opportunity, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There's even somewhere to step. Anyway, I'm sure there's no potential height here. I'm fairly tall. So my task this evening is essentially to have a conversation. I want to put everyone at ease. PS, don't feel ambushed. I'm sure you're just thinking, here goes civil society again. We will have a conversation in the next couple of minutes on some of the matters that have been raised. And the way we'll do this is that I will have 3-4 minutes with each discussant. And then we'll move to the stakeholders. I'm sure you were given some questions, and for those that know me pretty well, the questions are just a guide, so you can even put them aside. Let's have a proper conversation. But P.S., firstly, I think people are maybe mistaken by the name. I've seen we are now called Mrs. Mweni Kaila Bwalia on the program. It's Mweni, isn't it? Yes, but the first name is Mweni. Just to put that into its correct perspective. So P.S., government has made a number of commitments in the recent past, and the most recent commitment was that we would have a bill by June in Parliament. So June has come and gone, and everyone therefore is wondering, where are we with the bill? You've drafted many laws in your life. Yes. What's the sticking point in this bill? It's a bill I'm sure you can write even in your sleep. So where are we? Thank you very much. The mic on? I can give you.
Good evening once again to all the attendees. Where are we with the Access to Information Bill? It's a process that began by way of our manifesto. The UPND manifesto is very clear. It has established an access to information bill, and this is meant to enhance transparency and accountability as we carry out our governance role as government. And this commitment was followed through by a roadmap that was developed in January, the beginning of this year. And this roadmap ran right through to June. So this roadmap was basically providing for stakeholder consultation, engagement of non-state actors, civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, and this eventually led to the codification of the piece of legislation that we have as Ministry of Justice. The next step in the process is that we are supposed to have cabinet approval in principle, because the first process was just merely to get a second bite of the cherry. As you know, this is a piece of legislation that has been on the table for 20 plus years. We know it came in as a private member bill back in the day by Honorable Sakura Squatter, who brought it in before Parliament and was taken up by government. That notwithstanding, the government allowed for people to have a review of the bill yet again, and be able to indicate what are some of the key provisions they wanted to have. The legislation. Granted to introduce the bill, we then proceed to the drafting process and have necessary stakeholder meetings as we usually have as the Ministry of Justice. While we have missed this vote, we still had an opportunity to submit it to the budget session because it's a session that still is able to consider legislation other than the budget legislation. So the ship hasn't sailed. We're still on course. It's just been delayed, and it's a process that is still running in accordance with the timelines that were provided.
Anyone might want
were enacted. So the positive aspects would be participative governance. I think getting citizens involved in the governance of Zambia, in the governance of, for example, CDF finances, getting citizens involved in development. It's very exciting. If we get citizens' involvement in that area. Also, foreign investors. If foreign investors see, I suppose, access to information take root in Zambia, there would be an increase in investor confidence. And I think that could only benefit Zambia and benefit investors coming into Zambia.
The other person has call captions enabled. Please start speaking.
I've heard that once before, and I like the expression. The public have a right to look at the decisions of the government and to see whether they are the right decisions for the people, and to look at the explanations given by the government to see whether they are the right decisions for them. And I think that involves dialogue between citizens and the government. Dialogue that can only happen with access to information. And that leads me to perhaps my final positive aspect of the ATI Bill enactment would be a better service of the government to the people. If the government wants to know how can we serve the people better, the people need access to information to know what is available, for instance, for people, but also it will enable people to give feedback to the government in terms of what they currently do. So perhaps we should focus on the positive aspect.
But just one question for you, Father. Do you think the public have been on the positives of the ATI bill, which is why we need an ATI regime in this country? Have you heard enough? Or non-state actors like angels are speaking to themselves that are not carrying the public gas in this conversation?
I think that's an excellent question. I think if the concerns that are being raised tonight are the same concerns that were raised 20 years ago, I think we haven't progressed in terms of our understanding of ATI. And I think sensitization is necessary. We need to bring out that this is going to be a great bill. It's going to be a great piece of legislation. And I think this is a lot to do also with ownership by people. I think citizen apathy, I think, was raised in one of our speakers before. One of the dangers that come after the enactment. So after it's not, the main fight is not just to get the enactment, it's now after the enactment is implemented. And I think as a part of our enactment journey and implementation, we need to help people to understand what they are entitled to, but also the exciting things of what they can do with ATI.
Thank you very much, Brother. Mr. Kaya, let me move to you from this, talking about your constituency and your membership were well represented tonight. How has the absence of the ATI law affected freedom development? And what would you be looking out for to enhance media freedoms and just generally professionalism? First and foremost, the absence of the law, how has that affected media development?
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, thank you very much. This piece of legislation is very, very important, not only to the media, but to everybody in the house. I know we've heard some positive yes. However, as Lisa, we are still skeptical because we've gone through the same. We've even gone beyond what the PS has prescribed here. Example, in 2009, we were given a roadmap where there was a government approval, it even went to Parliament. After one first reading, again, it was withdrawn for consultations. So we are yet to see and see that it has been actualized. This piece of legislation is very important, not only to media, but also to citizens, because citizens need information to make informed decisions that will better their lives. And the absence of this law, it has caused a lot of harm, actually. If anything, we have seen the development of misinformation, false information, fake news, and so forth. Because of lack of this information, it creates some information gap between the citizens and the government. And we all know that the government is the custodian of 80% of the information, which is needed for the people to make informed decisions. Now, if we can't make decisions because we don't have information, definitely there's a big gap between the citizens and the duty holders. Maybe some of you can go to our website, Lisa website. Every year we do mystery shopping where we commission somebody to see how difficult or how easy it is to get information from government department or aiding agencies and so forth. We are talking of information in public domain. We are not talking of certain exceptions of security of personal data and so forth. It's almost impossible to get that information. And as such, it has caused a lot of disservice to the people it's trying to provide. And because of also lack of this information, it's very difficult from the media point of view to report positively. You know, a journalist is a highly trained person whose job is to inform, educate, and protect. And not only that, we operate under ethics. You cannot publish a story which is one-sided and so forth. But the problem we have now is that with the lack of access to information, we can't do investigative journalism, we can't do get reviews from the other side. So most of our stories are one-sided, which is disadvantaging the citizens because they are only hear one side of the story. So we can see that the absence of this law definitely has caused a lot of disservice to the citizens of the country.
That's interesting that you say we have disinformation and misinformation. If you look around the region, and NISA is a regional body, there are countries, Zimbabwe, Malawi, who have this access to information. Would you say the state of the media is any different from what it is in Zambia? Have they advanced because they have the access to information? Or maybe it's because there are other parameters of governance which are not in place. But if access to information is the one that will give us good stories, can I read good stories which are balanced, which are informative from the countries where they are based?
Yes and no. Having a law, ATI law, is one thing. Implementation and enforcing it is different. We have a country in this region which I don't want to mention them. We have the access to information law, but it's almost impossible. There are a lot of exceptions. They give you like you are entitled to this and this, and then they give you exceptions which are even more than the which takes away. And also, if you look at Malawi itself, the law was passed 4 years ago, but it was only actualized, implemented this year. So that in itself, having a law itself, it's not enough. That law should speak to the needs of the people. That law should be enforceable. That law should provide information for the people to inform decisions.
Let me come to Mr. Mlongo. You wear too many hats. You are a journalist, but you're also an anti-corruption activist as a member of Transparency International Zambia. Do you see benefits in the fight against corruption, in access to the information, or the exceptions, the reductions? Yes, we're talking about still happening today. Critical information is needed. They give it to you in a manner that is not accessible, or they give it to you with a lot of reaction. Do you have hope that the ATI law will make the fight against corruption any better than it is?
Well, thanks a lot. And I'd like to thank the PS for the positive rights that she has put on the table. Also to thank the for committing himself and other MPs to this bill. Do I have hope as an anti-corruption activist? The hope is tempered with because of what we've seen in the past. And we've been talking about this since 1998. But if it gets to be passed, and then also taking into consideration everything that stakeholders will put on the table, perhaps it would help in the fight against corruption. It's interesting to note that Angola, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Togo, countries that have problems, political problems, serious ones, like war, have access to information laws. In Zambia, a country that has been peaceful for a while, doesn't seem to be making any movements. So one really hopes that this act of bill will be passed in order to help even the anti-corruption commission. Because sometimes they hit war when they are doing their investigations because certain information exist in certain cases just fall off. In terms of consultation periods, I'm afraid that we have over-consulted. We need to have a roadmap in this particular bill. And you sound very genuine, and I hope that we will meet with your process and we will do that process that kind of suggestion to them. I do not think that there is anyone that does.
Thank you. P.S. I want to give you an opportunity of, since we're not in court to do a re-examination. Conversations that we want to consult. And we've been consulting. Some of us, we started the consultation when I had a bit of hair now. Once we have hair, we're still consulting. Are we not? What is it that you want to consult us on? If the key principles are known, is it just those technical issues that you're talking about? And secondly, if the bill is going to go in the budget session, I'm just wondering, from a budgeting perspective, when do we then get support for the infrastructure needed for the ATI itself? Because like you said, it's a very complex one. You need to have the right infrastructure. But if you miss the budget opportunity, so government will say, yes, good law, but we have to budget for it the next in 2024. And then the process will start. Thirdly, and this is now a technical issue which you can explain to us, because we've noted now that we have a few laws that come with commencement orders. So the law is passed in Parliament, but it is contingent on the commencement order signing. We pray God that this one will not have a commencement order. But we get the law, like the State Audit Commissioner, which is not implemented, the Parliamentary Service Commissioner, which has been passed. Yes.
Thank you very much. I know we always so seemingly appear to be minding the consultation, but on the contrary, always the non-state actors that show it. The most recent process, we were ready to go ahead and just have it approval in principle and have it go through the things where you have our meetings as Ministry of Justice in accordance with our procedure. But it is the non-state actors who say we want to have a look at it. And I think it has always been from a perspective of not trusting government because of past experiences. And so you believe that the view that is before government is one that doesn't quite articulate what you want to have in that bill. So it's from that perception of mistrust as well, from our social accountability partners, not believing that we are able to still hold on to the proposals that were submitted during the past consultative process. So for us, if a request is made, we don't hold back. If we want cooperating partners and we ask for 15 more meetings, it is not our place as government to say we have over consulted. Because in governance, we realize, as has already been indicated in our foundation presentation, the people have their say. And the citizens, if the citizens who are represented by these various civil society organizations, faith-based organizations ask, we have a mandate to give it to them. Talking about why are we having it in the budget session and how we're likely to have the excuse that we won't have the funds. On the contrary, I think it is better now. As you know, we have had our budget core paper at this point where ministries are seeking to get budgetary allocations for their programs in the year 2024. So for us, it is actually a very, very timely process to have it go along with the budget. Even as the Ministry of Information and Media are presenting their budget, they have it at the back of their minds that they need to provide for the budgetary allocations to facilitate the implementation of the law. Commencement order. It is a decision that the parent ministry makes. You have an option of either coming up with an SI or just having a piece of legislation that will take effect after presidential in the government gazette. So it is something that is determined by the ministry. It's not something that is dictated by the Ministry of Justice. We do our part to provide the facilitatory role of giving advice on the legal aspects and how the bill should be structured. But it is the ministry that determines whether you want to have it come into operation immediately, or you want to provide for the administrative arrangements. Looking at a bill such as this, if you're going to impute this function of existing institution, obviously that institution has to have sufficient time to be able to take on the role, in addition to any other existing role that that institution may have. So in that regard, it would be safer to have a consistent order. But that is not a tool that we would use as government to hold back on operationalizing the piece of legislation. I know we may have had similar positions of that nature that causes this mistrust, and I go back to mistrust, but I believe we have the political will. We are committed to the process. It's something that is required for the citizens of Zambia, the people that have given the government the mandate to govern this nation. And so it's very important that we address their concerns and we're able to articulate what they would want us to do. Having a piece of legislation to enable them to participate in the but on the back of that, social accountability is also very important. I mean, possibly deviating from the questions you asked, I think there have been so many other platforms that have provided access to information. We have the provisions in the Constitution that allows, that provides for the public service to provide information to the people in terms of how they are carrying out their functions. We have the budgeting process, which is a very open and transparent process. We have the 8th National Development Plan that's now incorporated non-state actors who have access to information. Of course, the question would be how much of it is brought out, and that's a different topic. There have been so many other avenues that have provided information, financial intelligence, the trade analysis report, the audit reports. All these bring out very integral information. But how accountable have our social partners been in using this information? We talk about launching service charters under the international development plan. A number of them have been rolled out. We report in our clusters as chairpersons or co-chairpersons, but who has actually come out from the public and said, you have said you will conclude the review of the contract within 14 days. Are you doing that? So all this information is out there. There's been no accountability coming from the citizen back to us. And that's why sometimes this bill is seen as a tool just for civil society, media organizations, and yet it's far-reaching. It's supposed to have a wider application, and this is what really needs to be explained. So we move away from media, self-regulation, access to information, to public governance. And how do we get the feedback on how we're governing what's right, how do we information?
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to ask on the constitution, but we'll leave that for another day. So the constitution provides for transparency and accountability, and I'll say
So just to clarify, your question is about information that we're already getting.
absolutely.
I think that's a good question. I mean, there is lots of access to information that we have already. My response would be the lack of access to information makes CSO jobs quite difficult, even when they're working for government. I'll give you an example. So government often approaches, or at least the Parliament approaches JCTR for submissions, for comments, for research. When we're doing government research, we can't get information that we need. We can get some of it, but we actually are pretty stuck in certain conditions in which we are working for government. I think that's quite interesting to note. But I think it just makes it more difficult. Our job is lack of access to information. We can do some of our work well with the current access to information we have. I'm always appreciative of the government's website, especially National Assembly's website, in terms of legislation. It's always up to date and it always provides good information for us. Thank you very much. But there's always room for improvement.
Well, some government ministries were last updated in October 2022. So it's we can have that conversation offline.
Definitely not.
How accountable are we using what we already received? And we have capacity for more. Maybe we want just more, and yet I don't think we're using what we're receiving.
I think that the point that was brought out by Bright about citizens is something that we need to is maybe to raise awareness in the citizen in terms of creating their because successive governments have been using that capacity to just, bank this draft bill. I'm afraid that it's going to be on the same path. I do not have too much hope that this bill will become the budget set. I'm afraid there is nothing on the ground to get this appetite to pass this bill into law.
All right. Whether you need to pray for Shimba, he is a bit of hope. But
Yes, one of the issues where we have a problem from CSO point of view is protection of the content itself. Because we have seen situations bills that the so-called consultation was done, you put your views, but what comes out is different. For argument purposes, the cyber security law, most of the some of the clauses which we rejected completely are the ones which came out in the final draft. So as such, when we talk of distrust, I think we have a reason because we have been reported before. And, and one of the interesting things is that see, even when we reach the technical legislation committee for Ministry of Justice, again, it's funny there because I've been there several times. You find if government has got an interest in a certain bill, they will invite people from government departments. One time they were getting four, from CSOs were four. Then they couldn't agree, then they addressed both. So those are some of the issues concerning CSOs as content protection of what we intend or what we want to see from the legal stuff.
Honorable Director, even for Parliament, are you accountable for the information that you receive as parliamentarian? Do you use it to represent the people? Would you say that the information that you receive is
Yes, indeed, moderator. I think the parliament that we have now is more than I just want to assure the CSOs that this is a new government. And I think from what has happened so far, in the last 1 year that we've been in office, I think there is every reason to trust it. I say so also in terms of, for example, when I talk of the composition on the CDO. CSOs are there. The change is there. And we are amending that law to broaden it. It's just an example of what this government is trying to do. His Excellency the President is highly committed to ensuring that the media is free. The media is free. The people of Zambia are free. That's the reason that this government is failing. That is what is in the manifesto. And in the last 1 year, I think we made it very serious. I've already quoted, for example, the problematic pieces of legislation, which include defamation. Most of the people, under PF, for example, 16 people were locked up and sentenced for defamation of the. I'm just one of the people who were previously arrested for defamation of the in MMD. If you Google my name, you'll find bad laws. Bad laws. So the point really that I'm making is that this Excellency is highly and this government to ensure that we get to where we are supposed to get. And I think it is very, very important not to judge this on the problems of the over consultation that took place for 10 years and 10 years. And it will be very, very unfair to judge us. We look forward to seeing the bill in the House. And like I indicated, our committee is the one responsible for scrutinizing these bills at the National Assembly. I assure civil society that we are available, we are together in this fight. Because we know the values that this particular bill brings, not only to Zambia, to the government, but the Zambian people as well. It is progressive democracy. It is a human rights issue. Access to information is a human rights issue. It's an issue of governance. It's an issue of human rights. It's an issue of the rule of law. Being able to hold government accountable. This government wants to actually sincere man. The Public Order Act, which was highly problematic, that most politicians tried on. The president said that is the valid law. It has to be reviewed. And this is consultations underway. So I think if we are to judge the UPND government on the failures of other governments, so I want to console and assure the civil society organizations that this government is a new government. 1 year in office, we have already delivered that. In August this year will be 2 years. We'll be reporting back by the end of the year what progress we have made, particularly on this government is committed. I thank you.
Well, we'll use the president's own words, the proof of Thank you very much, Ambassador, for those words. I'm sure they resonate with everyone in this room. We'll now take a moment to open up this discussion. We'll have an open discussion, question and answer. If you want to make any intervention, state your name, where you're coming from, and be very brief. Don't preface your questions with too many examples of what happened to Shaka Zulu or whoever. Let's just get straight to the point. Anyone wants to comment, react? You are free people, you are liberated people. Feel free to speak. I can even stand on the podium now to cheer for one. Elijah.
Thank you very much. When it comes to the sorry, my name is Chishimba from the National Legal Clinic for Women. So when it comes to the reservations and the exceptions, especially in public safety and security, I understand that it's necessary to have such reservations. But is there a framework in place or an intention to place like a time limit on when certain information can be declassified for the public? Because other countries like the United States does have such frameworks where after a certain period of time, previously classified documents like from the CIA or even the armed forces can be released to the public. So is there any intention of placing such clauses in the bill?
All right. Sure, yes, to respond to the 5 minutes, but then the gentleman behind.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mauricio from the Alliance for Accountability Advocate Zambia. My question is, I think, given how long we've had this bill, it's great to see the momentum that the New Dawn administration has regarding its enactment. But I would love to find out, during your consultation process and your way in developing and enacting this bill, what best practices have you taken from countries that have managed to enact this bill? Maybe at the regional or even the global level. Because this will not only help with enacting it, but it will also help with the implementation. Because from what PS has said during this engagement, I've noticed that even the implementation, once it's enacted, will be a bit of an issue. So maybe just copying from countries that are doing well with the ATI, what best practices have you gotten from these countries? Thank you.
Thanks, Mauricio. The last question, unless there is another one from the gentleman at the top.
Good evening. My name is Muziana Kakenema from PI's initiative.
Just speak up a little bit, sir.
All right, good evening. My name is Muziana Kakenema from PI's initiative Zambia. I'm excited to note that I think we already talked about how the bill is going to be implemented once it's enacted. From the response that PS gave to the first question that moderator gave, she indicated that they are considering two options. The first option was to have an officer who's going to be responsible for receiving these requests in all the public institutions. And the second option was to establish probably a specific institution that will be responsible for that. Now, noting that we want this law to hit the ground in terms of implementation when it's enacted, which of the two options would you consider to be more appropriate to become implemented?
All right, I see no other questions. PS, you're still in the dock. And I'm sure you knew that would be the case.
Decline the invitation.
No,
It's the easy way out. Yes, thank you very much. National Clinic for Women, reservations and how to provide for declassification. Very important question, and I think even as the legislative process commenced in years past, one of the proposals is to actually
commitment for the grant. This is what Senator Bandareki, Mr. Milongo, and Mr. Kayanga, and Ambassador Gonzalez for their interest. Thank you very much. So this is where I end my task. I believe I've ended my tea. I hand it back to Chibuka.
Thank you so much, Mr. Another hand for Mr. Chibuka. All right. I think at this particular point in time, since we are doing that in terms of time, I will invite Mr. Raymond Mutale, who is the head of program for Zambia, to round it up in terms of closing remarks and perhaps the way forward. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chimuka, and maybe also to join in thanking the panelists and, of course, the audience for the questions and points of clarification that we've raised. Mine is very simple, just to highlight where we go from here. The starting point is that there are a number of issues that have come out of this conversation. But before I do that, I want to thank the PS and Honorable Angelek for being always a friend. I think whenever we invite them for our activity, they always come. But also when you look at the way they come out during discussion, they actually deal with one of the problems we have. There is this mutual mistrust between civil society and government. But you agree with me that the way they came out today and the way they come out always is to demonstrate that we are not fighting. We are colleagues and we can share information. There's nothing to hide. They are always articulate and very open in the way they debate. And through you, I want to appeal to other government officials that we are partners and we need to work together. When we invite, you come through and freely express yourself because you open and you clarify things that may not be clear to us from the government's perspective. What are some of the things that are coming out from this discussion? First of all, the importance of access to information, I think, cannot be overemphasized. That is very important for democratic governance. We've been informed that government is still committed to enacting this law. And this can be seen from the roadmap that PS has indicated that there is a roadmap. But maybe in the spirit of openness and access to information, PS would be happy if you could be giving us some progress reports on what you are achieving against the milestones in the roadmap. I think that would demonstrate that we are open, and once this law is enacted, we'll continue to be open. The need for awareness raising also came out, both internally in government, but also to the citizens. The issue around, again, connected to mutual mistrust, I think non-state actors still feel this may be a promise, but that may not be fulfilled. But of course, we've been assured, and learning from past experience, we want to register that we don't want to be dribbled again, and we challenge you to be true to what you committed to them. The other aspect that came out is the importance of access to information to the fight against corruption. I think the bottom line around issues around anti-corruption
is open government. When there is transparency, then I know what is happening on the other side. When I know what is happening on the other side, then I can ask questions. You cannot talk about accountability without transparency, without information. And so access to information is very important. Again, there is an issue that has come out just to clarify the importance of access to information in relation to investment in our economy, and also in relation to securing public resources. I know that one of our priorities in our strategy as Transparency International Zambia is to secure public resources. And for us to do that, I think we need this law so that all those that are supporting our interventions can actually join us in pushing for safeguarding these resources. The other point that has come out is that even after the law is enacted, there are things that we need to still continue advocating for. One, implementation, effective implementation of the law. But also the issue around government responsiveness to request for information. I think PS has clarified about the plans around creating infrastructure that will respond to this. But also we had in the foundation presentation that implementation is an issue, and so this will continue to be on our books as we advocate. The last point that I picked out is that as civil society, I think we need to continue advocating for government to demonstrate that they are ready to implement this law. And how do they do that? They have to demonstrate commitment to putting up an effective infrastructure to implement this law. So our advocacy will not end at enacting the law, but I think there are other things that will need to continue to be done for this law to be implemented effectively. Having picked these issues, the next steps are that, first of all, just to clarify, we are part of the ATI coalition, and our calling you together is to engage in this conversation and pick out information that we need. But from this stage, my team will put this information together and engage colleagues in the coalition and see how we jointly continue pushing for access to the information. Not to bore you, let me end by thanking Mr. Rifika for effectively moderating this discussion, but also to thank the panelists for eloquently and effectively bringing out their views, and of course the participants or the audience for asking relevant questions. And of course, my team for effectively putting this event together and having implemented it successfully. May I just end by wishing you well this evening, and I'm sure Achunka will guide us what the next steps are. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mtare. The next steps are that there's a request that we have a group photo, especially for the panelists and the ambassador. Then after the group photo, the gentleman from JCTR, you guide us in terms of the group photo. After the group photo, we will have some snacks outside. The executive director for TIZ will lead us to have some snacks. And as we are having some snacks, we can as well see Sandy seated at the end there for logistical related aspects. This is how we will proceed. Thank you so much. So we'll start with the photo, then we can go forward. The gentleman from JCTR, where are we having the photo from?
Right way.
Interesting.
Hello.
Please.
No, no.
After the photo shoot.
I'm being reminded that when you start a meeting with the national anthem, you have to close it with the national anthem. Okay, next time we'll do that.
It's open to be continuous open.
Like we have opened with a prayer, let's close with a prayer.
But your phone needs to charge.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.